I'm going to call this meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance and invocation by Councilman Henderson.
Stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you bow in prayer with me? God, we pray now that you would just watch over us and guide us as we make decisions up here that affect people's lives, and may we know that you care for every one of us, each and every one of us, and that just give us that same concern and care in our hearts as we make these decisions tonight. And we ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. A motion to approve the minutes? A motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Ordered. Thank you very much. First item on our agenda is special presentations, and Councilwoman Burrs, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This month is Older Americans Month. Dr. Radu, very proud to be a part of the Family Justice Center that serves people of all ages, all backgrounds, all persuasions. And whereas the city of Chattanooga includes countless older Americans who enrich and strengthen our community, and whereas the city of Chattanooga is committed to engaging and supporting older adults, their families, and caregivers, and whereas we acknowledge the importance of taking part in activities that promote physical, mental, emotional well-being, no matter what your age, and whereas the city of Chattanooga can enrich the lives of individuals of every age by promoting home and community-based services that support independent living, involving older adults in community planning, events, and other activities, and providing opportunities for older adults to work, volunteer, learn, lead, and mentor. Now, therefore, I, Andy Burke, Mayor of the City of Chattanooga, do hereby proclaim May 2018 as the Older Americans Month. Let me make one comment. Okay. For the council will be receiving a report later on, but one of the things the Mayor's Council for Women is looking at in our city is ageism. The fact that people over 50 very often are discriminated against in hiring, in on-ramping, particularly women who leave to take care of families and come back on. So I think, and the mayor is looking at this too, so let's not think of older Americans as just the stereotype. A senior happens when you are 50 or over, and as the Office of Multicultural Affairs will tell you, and as perhaps you've experienced in your own life, if you turn in a resume with all the qualifications in the world, you may get a being out because you've been discriminated because of age. It may be that people assume you want a higher salary. It may be that people assume all other kinds of things, that you may not be computer literate, you may not. The point is, these are all assumptions, and we need to start looking at that. So it's very exciting for me to be able to present this proclamation, but not for the usual reasons. The Family Justice Center is looking at all this, plus some others, and has received some funds to look across the board at what's happening in Chattanooga. So with that, I'm going to ask Dr. Radu to just say a few words.
Thank you, Councilwoman Burrs. I would like to acknowledge members of the Southeast Tennessee Coalition on Elder Justice. If you would stand, please. They're in the room today, and they represent some of our nonprofit partners, including Alexian Brothers, Susan, excuse me if I said it wrong, and AAAD, Southeast Tennessee Area on Aging and Disability, and who has a brand new program, CREVA, which stands for Victim Services, which is a new program across the state that was mandated with state legislation this year, actually. So we have the first CREA advocate, Jennifer, And we're just really appreciative of them and all the work that they're doing with us. Our goal is to create a elder abuse shelter network soon. There's a real need for that in our community. So we just want to say thank you. And then Patty in the front in the blue sweater is the project coordinator for this federal grant. Thank you all. So another member of our coalition is Dr. Lambert. She comes with very impressive credentials. She's retired, but I think she's probably busier now than she was when she worked full-time. And I think she's a wonderful example of what Councilwoman Burrs was talking about. When you get over the age of 50, that doesn't mean that your life changes and you sit in a rocking chair. You have a lot to offer your community, and I think all of us know people like that. And Chattanooga is really lucky to have so many wonderful people who would, I guess, fall into the category of seniors. But she wants to share a little bit of information with you about our coalition, the work we've been doing. The grant that we received is from 2017 to 2020. She's going to talk about that too. It was over $300,000 to do a lot of training with law enforcement as well as advocates around elder justice. A lot of older victims do not call law enforcement for domestic violence or elder abuse because of ageism and because they're afraid that their family member, who's usually the perpetrator, will be arrested. So you have to really approach this topic differently. So she's going to talk a little bit about that. But very briefly, she has a doctorate in nursing from Vanderbilt, where she is a faculty member now in her retirement days. She also went to Emory. She graduated from UTC. Returned home to Chattanooga after serving her country in the Army, worked for the CDC, came home to really give back to her community, and I've had the pleasure of knowing her for 2 years. Someone suggested she come by the Family Justice Center, and she's been a wonderful consultant for us. We're very fortunate to have her here, and she's going to share some information with you all now about elder justice in Hamilton County and the city. Dr. Lambert.
Good evening. It's really nice to be here. It's always great to be back in Chattanooga and doing whatever I can after 27 years away on active duty. But Chattanooga's always been my heart, always will be my heart, and it's a pleasure to do anything that I can to support the Family Justice Center or any other initiatives in Chattanooga. I'd like to acknowledge Dr. Radu for her leadership with the Family Justice Program. It's been a real pleasure to do anything I can to work with that program, as well as Councilwoman Berg for your vision in establishing so much around the Family Justice Center. That initiative by itself is just really awesome to see that in place in my hometown of Chattanooga. What I'd like to do for about 10 minutes, and I'll be very respectful of your time, is to just talk about some of the information that I think is foundational for us as we think about moving forward with elder justice in Chattanooga. I think we have to be grounded in what that population of older Americans looks like. And it doesn't, and we're talking about, as Councilwoman Berg indicated, we're talking about 50 and above. And that's when folks are, can be still very productive, very engaged with the community. But then we also have those who absolutely need additional support and resources as they get older. Let me just talk a little bit about our growing population of older Americans. Just an overview. The growth in the number and proportion of older adults in America is unprecedented in American history. Two factors account for this. First is longer lifespans, and the second is that the aging baby boomers will continue to double the population of Americans over 65 years of age and older. As more Americans reach the age of 65, our communities are continually stressed to help them grow older with dignity, in comfort, and safely, helping to ensure that baby boomers look forward to their later years, and they should. Just a little about the demographics related to, and you know what? I need to advance my slides, but I'm not sure how to, is my clicker there? Catch up with myself. Just a few demographics, and that's just the quantifiable statistics on a given population. The number of older Americans, again, is growing very, very rapidly. As the year began, January 2011, 10,000 Americans reach the age of 65 each day. That day, today, and every day for the next 19 years, 10,000 baby boomers will reach that age of 65. According to Pew Research Center population projections, by 2030, 18% of our nation will have reached at least the age of 65. This phenomenon, you may have heard it referred to as the graying of America, the silver tsunami, but they're just metaphors for this to describe the aging population in America. And sorry, this is a little busy, but a little data on the residents of, I couldn't figure out what to leave out, but there's lots of interesting data on Chattanooga's older residents. Approximately 28.7% of the population of Hamilton County are over the age of 55. The largest subgroup in this aging population are those between the ages of 65 and 74. Census data estimates that 38% of the county population aged 65 and older have a disability, and having a disability does not mean an individual isn't able to contribute and continue to work, that kind of thing. And the types of disabilities present within a number of subgroups: hearing difficulty, vision difficulty, cognitive difficulty, ambulatory difficulty, self-care difficulties, and independent living difficulties. Statewide, only 1 in 23 cases of elder abuse are reported. I wanted to turn to our elder abuse situation. Elder exploitation continues to be a problem of major proportions in Chattanooga and Hamilton County. In Tennessee, crimes against vulnerable adults aged 18 and older are investigated by Adult Protective Services. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation has found in 2014 that 51% of all crimes against persons across the state were domestic violence related, which is one of the reasons Tennessee ranks 6th nationally for incidence and prevalence of domestic and family violence. Tennessee state law does mandate that residents over the age of 18 are mandated reporters and must report child abuse and elder abuse to state authorities. Why is this important? It's important for a number of reasons, but the first one, and the only one I'll mention, is according to the Elder Justice Coalition, Department of Justice nationally, more than 6 million older adults fall victim to elder abuse every year, representing roughly 1 of every 10 adults aged 60 and older. Elder abuse can take the form of physical, sexual, emotional, financial abuse, as well as neglect and abandonment. Now, I'll quickly go through a review of some of the past area efforts to address elder abuse. There are many, and they include 20 years of community collaboration on elder abuse in the form of informal groups, task forces, including government, nonprofit, and faith-based entities. The Catholic Charities in Knoxville had an elder abuse shelter in the early 2000s. It's now closed. But a group from Chattanooga visited the shelter. In 2016, Samaritan Place opened to house homeless seniors in Knox County. And then there was the Enhancing Abuse Prevention in Later Life Grant to Partnership. The SARA project was from 2009 to 2012. And this grant, through the Partnership for Families, Children, and Adults, was focused on vulnerable women aged 50 to 55. Through this project, training on recognizing and intervening with elder abuse cases, primarily physical abuse, was provided to judges, the district attorney's staff, and local law enforcement. Outreach and basic management was also provided via a case manager hired through the grant, and a coordinated community response group was started. As a result of this grant, there was increased awareness of elder abuse and an attempt to coordinate a community response. And I do believe the training that we have to do in this area has to be ongoing as health professionals, as police officers, et cetera, as they retire, as they move on. We have to make sure that we continue that training. In academia, I always strive to make sure that this kind of content is included in the courses that are provided to our professionals that we're educating right now, whether that be nurses, physicians, or other public health professionals, and then anyone else that we can get to get this message to, and keep that message in that population of workers. The Chattanooga Family Justice Center opened in 2015. The timed it just right for my getting back from active duty, so I was really happy to be able to join in the effort. The Hamilton County Elder Justice Coalition becomes a project of the Chattanooga Family Justice Center in 2016. The Chattanooga Family Justice Center and the Spring Alliance began work in summer of 2016. And then VAPIT, the Vulnerable Adult Protection Intervention Team, is established by statewide legislation, by mandate of statewide legislation in 2017. And this meets monthly at the Family Justice Center. And then already mentioned is CREVA, Collaborative Response to Elder and Vulnerable Adult Abuse, was established January 18 this year via state mandate. A recent development of note is the Enhanced Training and Services to End Abuse in Later Life, the grant that was mentioned by Dr. Redu. The Chattanooga Family Justice Center was one of only 4 entities selected by the Office of Violence Against Women to receive $376,950 of federal grant monies under the Enhanced Training and Services to End Abuse in Later Life program to fund efforts to address older justice issues for the next 3 years, 2017 through 2020. A total of $1,499,561 was awarded to 4 states under this grant. The Enhanced Training and Services to End Abuse in Later Life program addresses elder abuse, neglect, exploitation, including domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, or stalking against victims who are 50 years of age or older through training and services. And again, I think this is so important that we need to continue to do this. The grant is structured to provide extensive training to law enforcement. Now, there are lots of other demands and burdens on our systems related to safety and security, emergency response, health, transportation, financial institutions, communications, and a host of others. There are many opportunities in rural and metro areas that we can take advantage of. And there are challenges to providing these services and making these assessments in rural and metro areas. Just a bit more information on demographic information that's needed. And I have seen some models in some other states, Florida, for example, where they do a great job of assessments, undertaking assessments that cover the demographic, living situation, self-care limitations, nutrition, et cetera, and to ensure the representation of groups that are traditionally hard to measure. They oversample low-income, minority, and rural populations. And I didn't quite keep up with my slides, but I don't think there's time for questions, but I'm happy to answer questions formally or informally. This is an issue that's near and dear to my heart, and one where I have had the pleasure of working both while in the military and since leaving the military. And again, I do want to add lots of references, especially from the Centers for Disease Control. The State of Aging and Health in America is a wonderful resource. The National Institutes of Health, Institute on Aging, absolutely a wonderful resource for local communities as well. And then the Pew Research Center, their social and demographic trends. And again, acknowledgements for Dr. Redu, I want to call you Councilwoman Burks, and Dr. Jennifer Kim, who's one of my colleagues at Vanderbilt University.
Thank you, Dr. Lambert. I know there was a lot of information, and will this be on the council website, or can we make it available maybe through the city, or we'll figure out a way? Because I'm sure people would like to access this information. Thank you, all of you on council, for your continued support of the Family Justice Center and our endeavors to make our community a little safer. We appreciate you. Thank you.
lose Councilwoman Burrs? She's down there. All right. Moving on, Madam Clerk. Let's get to ordinances on final reading, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 600 Tremont Street, more particularly described herein from R2 residential zone to R3 residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
Council Mitchell?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did add some conditions to this last week, but it is second reading. John, those conditions were added?
This is regarding retention of the existing structure.
Yes.
Let me confirm real quick. Just come up. Yes.
Yes? Okay. All right. Move approval.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. B, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 7509 and 7513 Ziegler Road, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to RT1 residential townhouse zone.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We did hear this in public hearing last week, and I believe that we have everything squared away. I'd like to move for approval.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Sorry, thank you. C, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 7978 Park and 8012 Shallowford Road, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to R4 special zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to thank the council last week for their support and an opportunity for a conservation partnership in District 4. Even though our action is technically not final on this matter, I would like to move to approve with conditions.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. All right, Madam Clerk, we have one no. D, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 7416 Lee Highway and 2735 Silverdale Road, more particularly described herein from R3 residential zone to R4 special zone.
Councilwoman Burrs. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. All right, Madam Clerk, we have one abstention.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 5006 13th Avenue, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to C2 convenience commercial zone.
Councilman Oglesby.
Excuse me, yeah, John, okay, everything has been cleared as far as the verbiage to make sure that that whole parcel is zoned to accommodate this request?
I will confirm that again. A second here.
I'm just trying to get
Yep.
that verification, okay? With that being said, move to approve.
All right, I have a motion and a second for approval. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. F, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located off of the 1800 and 1900 blocks of Old Wauhatchie Pike and owned by the Lookout Mountain Conservancy, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone, R2 residential zone, R3 residential zone, and R5 residential zone to permanent zones, subject to certain conditions.
Move to approve.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. G, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 815 East Main Street, 1333 Central Avenue, and an unaddressed parcel of land in the 1300 block of Central Avenue, more particularly described herein from M1 Manufacturing Zone to UGC Urban General Commercial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
Councilman Byrd, followed by Councilwoman Coonrod. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. H, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1302 South Willow Street, more particularly described herein from R4 Special Zone to UGC Urban General Commercial Zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, Councilman Byrd, followed by Councilwoman Coonrod. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. Madam Clerk, ordinance is on first read. Item A, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 512 Tucker Street, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to RZ1 zero lot line residential zone.
Councilman Mitchell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, I'm working with the applicant on these next two ordinances and trying to create something that's a little more pleasing to the neighbors. So I'm going to ask for another deferral. I would make a motion that we defer this until June 12th.
Yes, sir. I have a motion and a second for deferral till the 12th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. Councilman, both of these go together, but before we move on, I'm going to have the clerk read the second one into the record. B, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 510 Tucker Street, more particularly described herein from R1 residential zone to RZ1 zero lot line residential zone.
Okay, Councilman Mitchell.
Move to defer until June 12th.
Have a motion and a second to defer till the June 12th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. C, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 3439 Lightfoot Mill Road, more particularly described herein from R2 residential zone to M4 outdoor industrial use zone.
Councilman Gilbert.
John, can we get a revised version of this, of the conditions on it?
It is, and the agenda is an alternative version. I'll read the condition for you if you like.
Yes.
All right, give me a second here. I just saw it. Give me a second. Okay. This rezoning shall be approved, subject to providing a site obscuring fence with a minimum height of 7 feet around the entire periphery of the property except for the approved access drive.
I'd like to approve the audit version.
As the alternate version, wait, we got to go back to first read. Correct. Oh, that's right, we got
There's
it.
conditions.
We moved it already. Oh, sorry about that, Councilman. Very good. We have a motion and a second for the alternate version. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Very good. Sorry, I forgot you made that. All right, Madam Clerk, next item, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of the 500 block of Stringer Street as detailed on the attached map.
All right. Councilman Henderson.
Mr. Chair, the applicant has asked that this be withdrawn, so I move to withdraw.
All right, I have a motion and a second to withdraw. All those in favor say aye. Opposed is nay. All right, thank you very much. E, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of the 7300 block of McCutcheon Road to allow for private development as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions.
All right, Councilman Ledford.
Move to approve, sir.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. Resolutions, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Economic and Community Development, Division of Outdoor Chattanooga, to enter into a contract with Civic Plus, Inc. for a management software system that will facilitate online reservations and payments for city parks, facilities, and outdoor Chattanooga programs in the amount of $28,375.
What's pleasure?
Second.
I have a motion and a second and a question. Donna, are you available real quick?
Yes,
Hey.
sir.
I'm familiar with the item, but ours also says corrected. I just wanted to make sure that we made a note of what that was about. Do you know?
It said, it reads corrected.
Yeah, there's a bold comment at the end of this item that says corrected.
Tony, do you know what that is, corrected?
I'm not sure. We didn't, I'm where.
Is it an error? Okay. I am hearing from the city attorney that that is on there in error.
On an error by the city
If
attorney's
you,
office.
if you want to point it out, yes,
Okay,
it's an
that's
error by the city attorney. Thank you, sorry.
No comment. I will.
I have a motion and a second for approval without the word corrected on there. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. Madam Clerk B.
This item did have a word that was missing. This was a clerical error, and I'm going to read the correct version. There was one word missing, the word pension.
Okay.
A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to enter into an agreement with the Hartford to provide pension, long-term disability, LTD insurance at the rate of 48 cents per 100 of covered salary, and a Family Medical Leave Act FMLA leave management system at the rate of $1.85 per member per month, and will offer city employees voluntary short-term disability, STD insurance for a one-year term with 2 one-year renewal options in the amount of $820,000.
Councilman Gilbert. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. C, please.
A resolution authorizing the Director of Human Resources to enter into an agreement with Unum Group to provide group life insurance at the rate of .119 per $1,000 of covered salary and accidental death and dismemberment, AD&D insurance at the rate of .019 per $1,000 of covered salary, and will offer city employees voluntary life and AD&D insurance for a one-year term with 2 one-year renewal options in the amount of $505,000.
Councilman Gilbert. Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. D, please.
A resolution authorizing the Chief Information Officer, CIO, to execute a blanket contract with Smart Systems, also known as Smart Homes of Chattanooga, to be providers of video and audio system products and services per supply catalog for the period of 1 year beginning May 16, 2018 through May 17, 2019, with the option to extend for 2 additional years for an amount not to exceed $250,000 per contract year.
Councilman Mitchell.
Move approval.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. So ordered. E, please.
A resolution to confirm the mayor's appointment of Michael Stroke to the Tree Advisory Commission.
What's the pleasure? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. F, please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the approval of change order number 1 final for P.F. Moon and Company, Inc. of West Point, Georgia, relative to contract number W12016-201, city code CSTOF, and pump station improvements, a consent decree project for an increased amount of $72,439.15 for revised contract amount not to exceed $2,385,439.15, and to release the remaining contingency amount of $157,560.85.
Councilman Byrd, followed by Councilwoman Coonrod. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you. G, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Transportation to enter into an agreement with Reagan Smith Associates relative to contract number T15014-101 for professional services associated with the Woodmore Safe Routes to School Midland Pike Sidewalk Project in the amount of $31,000 with a contingency amount of $3,100 for a total amount of $34,100.
Councilman Gilbert, followed by Councilman Ledford. All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you. H, please.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Transportation to enter into an agreement with ASA Engineering and Consulting Inc. relative to contract number T14002 for professional services associated with the construction, engineering, and inspection of retroreflectivity sign project for various cities, streets in Chattanooga, and the amount of $47,084.07 with a contingency amount of $7,062.61 for a total amount of $54,146.68.
Councilman Gilbert.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Clerk. That takes us to purchases. Switter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We first have 5 items for your consideration on behalf of Public Works. First, we have a blanket contract renewal for rental equipment to be awarded to Herc Rentals, Inc., an estimated annual amount of $75,000. Next, we have a blanket contract renewal for janitorial and custodial services to be awarded to Custom Custodial, an estimated annual amount of $100,000. Next, we have a blanket contract renewal for concrete pipe to be awarded to Foley Products Company in an estimated annual amount of $260,000. Next, we have a blanket contract renewal for street tree mulching to be awarded to Fresh Start Lawn Care, an estimated annual amount of $29,000. And finally, for Public Works, we have the purchase of service repairs on Road Tech paving equipment to be awarded to Road Tech, Inc. in the amount of $54,350.26. Next, on behalf of the Youth and Family Development Department, we have a blanket contract renewal for bus transportation for the summer programs. It's to be awarded to Sneed Transportation in the estimated annual amount of $100,000. And finally, we have new blanket contracts for janitorial services for North River Civic Center and Eastgate Civic Center, both to be awarded to Certified Maintenance Service, Inc., in a total estimated annual amount of $40,000.
Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Justin, can I ask you a real quick question on the Road Tech item? This covers repairs when the equipment breaks down. I saw the other day where something had broken down on a street project where I stopped and talked to the guys, and but this covers that kind of repair, kind of on the spot.
Yes, sir. I believe this is parts. I'm not sure if this covers labor. I'd have to look. It does. Bonnie advises me that it doesn't include labor.
It does.
It does include
does
labor?
include
Okay.
labor.
And I was just curious, looking, how do you get down to the 26 cents on something like that?
Probably based on estimated unit quantities.
Yes. We have defined pricing based on the Tennessee statewide contract. So they were able to define exactly what they projected to need.
It looks so detailed unit.
Okay, very good. That was my question. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Bonnie.
Sure.
Thanks, Justin.
It's a pleasure of the council. I have a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed is nay. Thank you very much. Takes us to other business. Is there anybody on the council that has other business they would like to discuss this evening? Councilman Ledford.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have actually 2 items. I would like to this evening reappoint Mr. Greg Gentry to the Health and Education Board.
Okay.
And I believe we do have to vote on that.
Is that in the form of a motion?
That is in form of a motion, sir.
I have a motion to reappoint Mr. Gentry and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed is nay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My second point is just to let everybody know that if you've noticed the flags at half-staff today, several people have wondered why. May 15th, 2018 is Peace Officers Memorial Day. So I just want everybody to be aware that it is honoring federal, state, and local officers killed or disabled in the line of duty. So that's all I have for my other business. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other business? All right. Seeing none, we will move to committee reports. And today, we're going to save the best for last and start with Councilman Oglesby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No report.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just don't want to leave you out.
Thank you.
Councilman
I
Mitchell.
appreciate that, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, we had a Public Works and Transportation meeting today. There will be another one in 2 weeks, and then another one after that in another 2 weeks.
All right. Thank you for keeping us updated. Councilman Ledford.
No report, Mr. Chair.
All right, Councilman Henderson. Councilman Gilbert. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Youth and Family Development Education Session for the budget will be on the 29th, if anyone is interested in hearing about YFD.
Thank you, ma'am. Councilman Byrd.
No reports, Chair.
Councilwoman Burrs.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's that time of year again. We begin our budget deliberations, and this year I have the privilege of chairing the Budget and Finance Committee. Today, we got an overview, an executive overview of both the operational and the capital budget. And beginning next week, every Tuesday from 10 to 2, we will be educating ourselves on the various items in the budget. The budget went online for everyone in the city today, too. You got it the same time we did. So go along with us. Look at the budget. Contact your representatives about any items in the budget that you have concerns about. We'll be educating ourselves all day for the next several weeks. And then on the 12th, we will be having a public meeting. It was very important to folks that we have a public meeting for input from the public, and so I've called that for the 12th. It's 6 o'clock, and we want to hear from you. You can't do that unless you've read the budget. It's pretty big. It's pretty lofty. However, it's what we're going to be doing in our city for the next year and what we're funding. So please read it. There was a lot of community input to get it to this point. The administration, the executive branch now turns it over to us as of 3 o'clock today for us to start our deliberating. We can't deliberate until we get educated, so we're going to spend the next several weeks asking questions, educating ourselves, and we want input from the public as well. So put that on your calendar, 6 o'clock. We'll be talking more about time limits and that a little later, but I just want you to get it on your calendar. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Madam Burrs. You did an excellent job earlier today. I'm looking forward to the next several weeks. That being said, we are now at the point of our agenda where we recognize persons wishing to address the council on non-agenda items. Is there anybody here this evening that would like to address the council? All right. Yes, sir. Please come forward. Mr. Attorney, would you read the rules, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Anyone interested in addressing the council will only be recognized at the microphone. You have 5 minutes, unless the council provides for additional time. You can only address the council on matters within its jurisdiction. You can't use any vulgar or obscene language. You cannot personally attack or personally denigrate others. And the chair is prohibited from recognizing persons more than twice during a 30-day period on non-agenda items. There's only one person on that list, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir. Evening, Mr. Bell.
It is indeed a great evening, Council. I'm Monty Bell, the homeless journalist. New title, The Gray-Haired Fox. First time I appeared before this council, I was about 18, 19 years of age. I've got to now go into my breast pocket and pull out a set of glasses. It's been a tremendous ride. Recently, I thank the council for allowing us the 5-minute venture. It's a long overdue opportunity, but for someone like me who enjoys talking, it's still not enough time. So let's begin. In July of last year, I had the distinct pleasure of meeting the newly elected city councilwoman, Demetrius Coonrod. From her verbiage during the campaign, I thought this was a strong candidate. Unlike anyone I've ever done before, I decided to use my $1 million voice to go public and say, I think this is a good candidate. In the process, I decided to meet with her to tell her what would be some good views. We're not talking about visions, we're talking about facts for the black community. I thought in that meeting with her on July 3rd, day before Independence Day, that there was something that we could see eye to eye on. But as I exited the meeting and the building of City Council, I discovered that my bicycle was stolen outside of City Hall. 9 o'clock in the morning, broad daylight. Cameras everywhere, millions spent on police surveillance for us, black people, people like me. Couldn't get anyone to give me proper video from behind City Hall. What video material we were able to get was so foggy, you thought it was on Lookout Mountain. So I decided to go and meet our city attorney, Mr. Hinton, and tell him I think out of all the things that I've gone through, the bicycle theft, I think, is the last straw. And I'm going over to the City Hall Annex building, and I'm not only going to find out if the camera works there, but I've got to meet someone, a security personnel by the name of John Fagan, who I understand for about 8 or 9 years have been charging me for a crime that the city, the county, the state, the federal government could not prove. And with that meeting, after meeting with you, Mr. Attorney, and I told you from that meeting that everything that you heard from the time that you and this administration came into this office was going to be proven as hearsay in a court of law, and I've done that. And I want you all to pay me my money. And with the time remaining, I'm going to tell you why. Out of 65 defendants that I filed my lawsuit against on the 20th day of July of last year, after meeting with Councilwoman Demetrius Coonrod about my bike, 65 defendants. I appear in the Circuit Court of Hamilton County, Tennessee, as a respectable citizen who's been living on these filthy streets for the last 20 years of my career as a broadcast journalist. I can't get one person in the media to allow me a news coverage, as much coverage as I did for this city, the county, and this state. I can't get one person in the media to give me a news interview about the oppression that I face each and every day, just like so many of my black people in this city, in this county, and in this state. And I've sent you all a recording of this despicable Mr. John Fagan, who, just like the one prior to him, denied me of due process of law. And you know this, Mr. Hinton. And so I'm not going to even take the remaining of this time. I'm going to ask you all to please.
I'm going to give you the time that you need, but please, whether or not it's a member of this body or whether or not it's a city employee, please. You've been here plenty of times to not use terms like despicable.
Sir, and I've been on the
as we
streets
asked,
for quite
please.
a long time, even
I understand that,
outside of
but I'm going to grant you even more time than you had just to make sure that you can speak. But please, just don't use those comments
It's not
towards the city
necessary.
employee.
I'm in due of my money, Mr. Chair. I'm in due of getting off of these streets. I've got about 75 people at the Salvation Army that you all said were on contaminated property. I was told by your security guard, Mr. Fagan, who's just like Mr. Page, and would you believe it, I had to wait before my case could be heard to listen to Mr. Paul Page being charged once again on last year in September of sexually harassing someone else after he was fired from Ron Littlefield's administration. And now we've got a John Fagan that's charging me with what, returning soiled blankets?
You guys want to take a recess?
No,
Are you kidding me?
I'm good.
My time is done. I want my money, please. There has been a lot of events going on where people can't explain why they do what they do. I can explain mine. It's been before your court. I've beaten your court from General Sessions
Do you mind if I ask you a question? Because
to the top.
we have heard you speak on this issue on many times, and I've kind of wondered, the case you're talking about.
There are two of them.
Okay. I don't know that anybody up here even knows the case because you're saying you're beat it in court.
This is kind of late in the game for that, Mr. Chair.
I understand, but you keep saying you want you're here in front of us, Mr. Bell, asking us to give you your money, and there's nobody up here that really even knows that.
If I may, your boss, Mr. Andy Burke, and his
who is not my
attorneys.
boss, but please.
Well, he's the mayor of the city.
Yes,
Mr. Andy Burke, as well as the mayor for the county, the city attorney. If I may make it a racial issue, who happens to be black, the county attorney, who happens to be black. They're all guilty of fraud on the court. Now, if we need to name names, Jerry Tidwell, who Mayor Andy Burke hired, he's charged with fraud on the court.
Okay,
Now,
having somebody charged,
now,
but
Judge
the thing is,
Hollingsworth, he's also charged with fraud on the court.
I got it.
Okay,
But the purview of this council can do what for your case?
like it does for police who brutalize people.
No.
What it does when see, I'm not going to give you a lesson about the city council. I think you
That's
all are
good,
aware
because
of
I
what
don't
the city
think you
council
can.
does.
Mr.
I
Bell,
do.
I was going to give you more time, but if you just, all I asked you was, what is the purview of this body for your case? That's all I want to know,
The
so that I
purview-
know what action that you would expect
It's
this
not a
body
fair
to take.
question when you're constantly in the news talking about failing education, when you're constantly talking about gang violence, when you're constantly talking about people down here that are black people like me that are making $12,000 a year, and maybe some 20-year-old white person out here is making $40,000 a year. It doesn't work. I stayed down here as a
Mr. Bell, I got
child.
it. You're not answering my question. Your time is up.
And
You
thank
are
you.
welcome back again.
And I do appreciate it. Thank you, council.
Is there anybody else that would like to address the council this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion. We are adjourned.